2024 saw 2-21, where Richmond fell to the bottom of the ladder for the first time in the 18-team competition. This is the hard exit meeting of Richmond Tigers.
Now, boys, how are we?
Very hard.
I don't know why I said this is the hard exit meeting. Like the hard reality of the truth.
I mean, it's going to be a brutally honest one.
It is, yeah.
A bit of a
will be.
reality check for me, at least. And the boys at the Tigers, I guess.
But
This is the first one we'll be sending out, I think.
We'll go 18-1.
yeah,
Yeah. That'll be a good way to go about it. And it'll be interesting to see how this shapes up to be. I'm looking forward to going over it.
So we obviously know that Richmond had a poor season, to say the least, all right? So do we want to get started and talk about the injuries that started off at the start of the year?
we'll start. We'll just go from like the year to the end of the year.
Okay. So start of the year, obviously, came out, lost to Gold Coast in that opening round. That was probably the first we saw of an awful year. But that was with a pretty healthy team. This is with Josh Gibcus back in after, going to Qatar to fix his knee. Obviously had some issues with his knee. Lynchy was back in the side against Carlton in the next round in round one. Obviously close loss to Carlton, and that's where it all started falling apart. Lost Gibcus, lost Lynch, lost a lot of the boys. I think we ended up only having one on the bench by the end of that game.
But not horrible game. Like people kind of knew that it wasn't going to be amazing. Like it wasn't going to be an amazing year. It wasn't going to be as bad as what it was. But lose by 39 in the first game, close game against Carlton, lose by 5, then lose by 30 to Port Adelaide. So not horrible. And then you come out and you do, at the time, who everyone was thinking Sydney's the best team in the competition. And you come out, you beat them on the home deck at the MCG.
Yeah, that threw a bit of a spanner into the works.
Well, because this was a game where it was like, you could say it was a fluke, but we had a genuinely healthy team out there. We had Lynch came back in the side as well. Lynch was playing, I think he kicked 3 on the day against Sydney. Tim Taranto was firing all cylinders. Obviously, that was when he was still playing football. So, for the most part, we had a pretty healthy side against that, which makes it kind of suck. We'll get into later about the trades and everything, but we never really got to see the proper team get to play apart from maybe a couple of games.
Yeah.
I think maybe the St Kilda game as well as the Sydney game were the two games we got to see Richmond's real best 22. Obviously, lost players like Jack Ross and, Lynch was out after that, just gone. And had to play all the kids. So that was what? That was the first 7 rounds we won one game, I think. So obviously round 1 to 7 was 1 to 8 was 1 and 7.
Yeah. Nothing more than 50 though. One game you lost more by 54. That was it.
Against who though?
Against Fremantle.
Yeah, that was in WA, wasn't it?
Yeah. Lost to. You guys played pretty good against St Kilda in Adelaide at that.
That was a good game.
Shitty oval.
That could have gone either way.
Because Shea Bolton decided he wanted to own the pockets
Yeah.
in that game. Remember that one? Then West Coast go over there.
Oh my gosh, we were up
Lose
like
by
30 points at halftime as well. So that one was in our hands. A lot of games where we had that were not in our hands, but we were thereabouts and just lost it.
Fall off.
Yeah, exactly. Just young side kind of vibes. So that was the first half of the year. Obviously, you could tell it would be a downward spiral from there. The next 7 rounds, I think, or 8 rounds, sorry, is where it really starts to fall apart.
Yeah, it got a bit ugly in the middle period.
We start to see those big losses from teams like the Bulldogs, the teams like Brisbane Lions up at the Gabba. That was a big loss as well. And then from that, I think, bit of a learning curve. Brought it back a little bit. Essendon Dreamtime, it's always going to be a close game. So it's never going to be a poor game. That was 12 points. Geelong was a game that we probably should have won, but we're such a young side. So this was also during Geelong's very big drought in that middle part of the season. So some good signs, some awful signs, and then some good signs right after the awful signs. Obviously, Essendon game is where Dusty decided to turn it back on. Dreamtime, probably his only good game for the year if you were being dead honest. But yeah, that was the middle half of the year. Anything to add to that?
No, I just remember the injuries started to hurt playing young guns. But it was kind of crazy. It shows how teams can like deliver on like those big occasions, those big games. Because you look at play the Western Bulldogs, 91 points. You play Brisbane, 120 points. Then you come up against Essendon, who at the time were playing good footy, and you only lose them to them by 2 goals.
They were top 4 at the time, weren't they? Or at least top 8.
They were. So I think that just shows that big occasions players do lift a bit more, and it means a lot more. But then you also question why could they not lift in other games? Like why does it have to be a big occasion game? So I don't know. I think there was a few players who probably weren't performing that well in the midfield, but it was also quite hard because Jacob Hopper, he'd play 2 games, get injured, miss 2 games, then come back for 3 games and then get injured. So it was hard for consistency. I think then players sort of started retiring, and there was a bit of trade rumours that came about in that back end of the season. However, did fly over to Adelaide and beat Adelaide there by 8 points in what was a pretty good game. I think on a Friday or Saturday night as well.
At Adelaide Oval as well.
So it was a primetime game. And basically made Adelaide look like they were shit because they lost to the team on the bottom of the ladder. And to that one?
That was a really good game. I felt like that game, I don't know why, but it kind of stuck out to a lot of Richmond fans in the sense that, like, I think we were more confident in winning that game than winning against North Melbourne or against West Coast at our home. Just because of the football we were playing before that, we were kind of due to win a game of football against a not as good side as the ones we were playing. It had to come once in a while, and it came during that game. I thought the boys played a really good game of football. There was obviously that middle part where you start to put, you've got no midfield. Presti is doing, low-grade hamstrings every 2 weeks. Hopper's in and out. I think this is when Taranto had broken his nose or his wrist, I think it might have been. Either one. So he was out. So midfield was genuinely just young guns. Graham was out for a bit. Rioli was the only one steadying the ship in the back line with Vlosten and Brody. Grimesy was gone. Noah Bolter had to get put forward, which didn't work at all. Koshitsky, he was in and out of the side, which I'm thankful that they know that he's not great. But when he was forward, it wasn't like it was better than having Koshitsky, but when he wasn't back, it was just so much worse for our back line. But yeah, that was a good win that was very much needed in a season of woes. But if you look at it, there were some really winnable games there.
There were games you were in. But it's this thing you see from like bottom teams. They play the first half well, and then the other teams they kind of just run over the top.
Like the Carlton 5 points, Saints 7 points, the Geelong where we were up at halftime, West Coast up at halftime. North Melbourne should be a game that we could win. Add an extra, 5 wins on top of that were possible, like not completely out of our grip. A 7-win season doesn't look too awful in the grand scheme. But yeah, it just when it came down to it, we just couldn't get the job done. Didn't have enough players. Mm-hmm. No experience at all. So just you watch like experienced players, like our wingman just got absolutely killed. Like could you imagine like a Jared Berry up on Sam Banks? Although
But
Hugo,
the problem was just people were in it and out as well. That was the other thing. As in, like, but not even through injury. It was just not like the trust. Of
Oh,
like,
yeah.
playing. It was just like you look at like Blight, who was playing good footy, and he gets dropped. And
I'm thankful we signed him on. So he's got another year on his contract. He signed very late for someone that got picked up in the mid-season draft. But yeah, he should have played more football. We shouldn't have played Trezzy as much as we did. I think he got 7 games towards the end of the season. Blight should have been in, gain his experience while he can, and then be a leader the next year. But I guess we'll have to see how that goes later on.
so they were 2-12 at the 14 round mark, and then didn't win a game for the last 10 games of the year. Obviously, as we said, injury. I mean, when it comes to the end of the season, you've got so many injuries and you probably start to get demoralised. It's hard at training to, sort of put a smile on your face. You feel for Adam Uze, who I don't think he's a bad coach at all. I think he was just dealt with a list. He got done by injuries. Like it wasn't, nothing had anything to do with his coaching ability. We saw, he beat Sydney. They were able to beat Adelaide. Like if he has a healthy team, he's a good coach. So Dusty's 300th it was? Yeah, 300th?
Yeah, against Hawthorn.
Yeah, 300th against Hawthorn. Lose by 50. Carlton lose by 60. Freo lose by 50. GWS lose by 25. Port Adelaide by 40. Collingwood by 25. North Melbourne by 2 goals. St Kilda by 50. Hawthorn by 60. And then Gold Coast by 30. A pretty horrid last 10 games for you.
Yeah, I think this is when the trade rumours started to seep in. Obviously, injuries were a big thing. A couple boys did get back. Taranto got back in the side, but still no Tom Lynch at all. Noah Bolter obviously having to go back and forth. These last 10 games look like pure development, really. Get as much experience as you can into the boys. Jack Ross came back for the last couple games as well, but it was too late for him to make a big impact on the season. Yeah, it does suck for Uze. I think he's got one of the hardest jobs in the AFL at the moment because we have genuinely no pieces at all. Like in terms of young talent, we have no pieces. Like you look at Brownlow votes, Harry Sheasel polled tremendously for North Melbourne. There was other boys that polled. Zane Dersma got a Mark of the Year nomination. There's unreal potential there, but not even any of our boys that are all young guns have that. None of them even polled a Rising Star nomination vote. So none of them in the squad for the under 22 list as well. So we've just got nothing there. So he's got a big decision. Well, not decision, but he's got a big draft coming up for him.
Yeah.
And it sucks because he probably won't be the coach in 4 years once the side starts to get better, but he'll be a big part in creating what will be the next dynasty for Richmond, I guess.
So as a couple more things I want to go on before we get into the draft. So last year went 10 wins, 1 draw, 12 losses. So 8 less wins and 9 more losses because obviously the draw as well. What was your expectation coming into the year? Better or worse?
About the same,
And-
honestly.
So about a
'Cause,
10 win,
well,
10 win mark.
That was us with a healthy side. And I think that's what displays us as a healthy side.
Yeah.
We're about a 10-win team. We'll lose games. We'll win games. Like, we should be a competitive side when we're healthy. And that last year was also without Tom Lynch. I think he's played 4 games of football in 2 years or something like that. Like, I thought that if we could stay healthy, obviously with the ins of Josh Gibcus, our list is basically, when you think about it, like pretty much the exact same as it was last year's.
Yeah.
It's just injury. Baker out with injury, all the boys out with injury, and then people just jumping off the ship. And it's like, why are you panicking so early? But I could understand from the sense of, even if they know they'd be better than last place, they're still not in premiership contention anymore.
And then the last one is obviously you said no Tom Lynch, so you struggle up forward. Didn't break the 100 mark once and had 100 kicked on you 10 times.
Wow. That
So-
makes sense.
That hurts though, not being able to break the 100 mark though in one game.
Our forward line was atrocious.
Yeah.
So, like, you had Toby Nankervis having to take marks inside 50 and, rebound 50, like, up against their ruckman, like, generally had to do everything. Like, getting Koshitsky to kick a goal for you was just the toughest ask. It was not, I would much rather a Radagalier in that sense that Radagalier will bring it to ground, Radagalier will make a contest, he'll put pressure on. Koshitsky, it's like it lands in his lap, he'll drop it, the
And
other
he'll
team
miss the
gets it,
kick.
and rebound and kick goal. It's like, okay. But yeah, just our forward line has nothing good to it. Ryan Mansell was pretty good, but you can only feed off what you're given, and our big talls, which we don't have,
Yeah.
didn't give anything to the smalls really.
And then from a list perspective, now moving on into that. So, as a whole of a list, the 44 players, experience-wise, 66 games, which is the 7th least or 11th most of an AFL list. And then the average of age of 25 years old, which was the 4th oldest. However, Pickett goes, Grimes
Dusty.
goes, Dusty goes. Those players. So that'll obviously drop down.
Sorry, was that 66 average games across the team?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So those numbers will drastically drop down come next year, which leads us into the draft, the picks, the trades. So currently, we can get Will's perspective from as a Richmond fan, but currently they have pick 1, 21 and 29. However, possibilities are pick 1, 6, 9, 12, 17, 20, 21, 22, 29. So that's 8 picks, I believe, 8 or 9 picks in the first 30.
Yeah. I think we could get pick 10 as well.
Who's that one for?
I think it's Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast have pick 10 as well.
Oh, for who?
Rioli.
Rioli.
Rioli's pick 6, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Rioli's pick 6. Shea Bolton pick 9. Baker pick
What
12
does West Coast have?
or pick 12.
Pick 12.
Or I think if he goes to Freo, it'll be like a late first rounder and 2 second rounders, I believe.
Yeah.
But most likely, if he goes to West Coast, be pick 12. Shea Bolton, obviously 9 and 17, and Rioli, along with his pick 6, pick 20 as well, and then Graham to West Coast, pick 22.
Pick 22, yeah. That's, yeah. But I saw a 10 in some article, but I don't remember where it was from. I thought it might have been Gold Coast, but I could be wrong. I don't know if Gold Coast would give up. They probably wouldn't give up 6 and 10 for Rioli.
No, probably not.
It would
If they
probably
can give
be-
him 20, then I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah, they desperately want Rioli though, from all the reports.
The only thing is, depending on what they could get for Lukosius, you might be able to get an 18 or something.
Yeah,
if they get
Well,
Port Adelaide.
Craig McRae wants pick 6 for John Noble, so
Yeah, well, that's just because he doesn't want to get rid of him.
Yeah,
Apparently he loves him, but
but doesn't pick him, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, so this is where we have a big decision to make. Obviously, these boys don't want to be at the club anymore, and respect their wishes. You know, even though they signed multi-million, 6-7 year deals, if they want to go play somewhere else, I'd much rather draft the draft stock before Tassie comes in. If not, I want all of them to stay at the club.
Yeah.
I don't want I don't want some of them, because some of them means nothing to me. Like, we obviously all know that Shea Bolton on his own can't do anything. Baker on his own can't support a team, just him. Graham, obviously. Rioli's the only one where he doesn't really need that big of a support group to really thrive. Like, he didn't need any of those other boys. He was always playing good football. But I think we need to trade all those players, get as much draft stock as we can before Tassie gets in. Really really strong draft this year as well. So
you're all in or nothing, basically.
yeah, but the chances will be it'll have to be all in.
Yeah.
But we did up we're trying to keep Graham.
Yeah.
interesting. He's
Yeah,
been trying to leave for the last 3 years.
yeah. It was Port Adelaide to start off with. that he wanted to go to.
And now it's Perth.
Now it's West Coast, yeah, Perth. But yeah, I heard the reports were that Richmond upped their deal for Jack Graham for 4 years.
Okay.
So I think we're trying to keep him, whether that's premiership experience for the young guys coming in. Not sure. Obviously, his rookie year was in their 2017 grand final. Probably hasn't played good enough football since then, but yeah, not sure about how that will go. Just need to get rid of all those boys.
What
See
are you
later.
looking for in the draft, though?
Huh?
What are you looking for in the draft, though? What are some
Midfielders.
midfielders?
So it'll be midfielders and it'll be
Key forward.
key forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be Jagger Smith at pick 1. We'll probably, if we get pick 6, maybe Finn O'Sullivan, depending on how low he goes.
Do you take Jagger at 1 or Ashcroft and pick up some other picks, but lose the 100 grand?
No, well,
Do you have we've got the number 1 pick, Jagger Smith, or do you go with we've got the pick 2, but we also picked up pick 30 and pick 40? Like what?
yeah,
Who you go
I don't
with?
think so. I think we'll have enough picks, and also I reckon we're really poor at the moment, considering we paid Dusty $1 million that year. Lynchy was close up. Shai Bolton as well was almost $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So I think you probably take Jagger at the first pick, 100,000. Take our picks throughout that whole draft. Maybe trade a few picks as well later on in the draft. But yeah, just really need to capitalize this year and next year. Hopefully, we're really shit next year as well.
Anyone on the possible pickup trade market, not losing them? Anyone want to come that you know of?
No, I like the thing is, we're not at that level yet where people even want to come for potential yet or veteran things. So most of them would look at like North Melbourne. So you'll obviously see like a Jack Darling with Melbourne, Caleb Daniel, I guess, with Melbourne. It's not looking like anyone is big fans of Richmond.
Yeah. So next year, what do you reckon the goal is? Is it just get the games into the young fellas that play and hopefully 3 or 4 wins?
Draft really well and get the games into the young fellas that will be a part of our team later on. We can't be having like list cloggers that keep playing games, because that's where you get stuck in a rut like North Melbourne. So we need to draft really well, and we need to maybe next year is the last year of the list cloggers plus the new draftees, and then you start to get rid of those and then bring some veterans in that can help those players that play alongside them, help those young players.
Fair enough. Sharky, do you have anything you want to add about Richmond?
Not really. You've been put in a tough position, basically. You've been such a powerful team for so long. And I think the natural decline that happened kind of snuck up on you guys, it feels. And I don't know whether or not that's something you feel as well. But it feels like, bring it back 2 years ago, I would not see you in this position. I would always think you'd be contending for the top half of the bottom 8, or maybe even, I don't even know where you'd put it there. But it feels like just out of nowhere, you guys had some bad luck. Your team's, I don't want to say culture because that feels insulting, but it feels like there was almost a switch in the dynamic once Dimmer left. In terms of Dimmer's gone, that's fine. And then it was like, oh, they're injured, that's fine. And then it was like, oh, someone wants to leave. And it was like, oh, it just felt like as if there was like a shift in terms of, it was like, you weren't seeing much positivity out of it. And I feel like a couple of things, like, I feel like you all kind of, and this is a fan basis, so you tell me, as a fan basis, you all kind of was like, Dusty's 300th, how good? Like, this is unreal. And you kind of celebrated that for a while, and it kind of brought the fans through it a bit. And then towards the end, it kind of died off. And I don't know, that's as a fan, I don't know, that actually meant nothing towards what I was saying before. I was just really rambling. But yeah, it just felt like there was a massive shift in the dynamic of how everything's working. Like, it's a tough job. Like, your list is basically at an all-time low, and any assets you have either want to leave
or are injured.
injured.
Yeah.
And that means that they need to then get more experience once they're off injured, and it means that you need to get new players experience. And because, as you said before, people when they look for a bit of opportunity, will go to North instead of Tigers. Like,
Well, yeah, I reckon we could pick up some listed players, maybe
Yeah,
a Jack Martin, even maybe a Caleb Marchbank could be useful to our list. You know,
Yeah.
you look at those players; they might not be valuable on that list, but you look at the list we have. I think I'd
and
probably
they have
take.
experience too.
Yeah, exactly. Like Caleb Marchbank's been in the system since what, 2015 or so. So, even someone like a Zane True who's been delisted from West Coast, a Jermaine Jones, Riley Bonner, even just to clog the list for a couple of years. Someone that can at least play football, has experience in the system for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be.
It just feels like this year was probably worst case scenario in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was just a complete panic fest from everyone. I think
I think it was an anomaly of a few bad things happening at the wrong time.
oh yeah,
They
just the
played
worst time.
Bit of a butterfly effect.
No, the most. It was like Dimmer left, and then I was like, okay, we're still not bad. So we're thereabouts, and then all the injuries happened, and now we're shit. But then it's like everyone forgot that they were shit because of the injuries,
Yeah.
and there definitely was a switch in the training.
You
and the
couldn't blame
behaviour.
it on your not progress. I can't think of the right word. Like your result on one bad thing. Like if you were to go, like you could go injuries, but then you go, well, you had new kids, and you go, well, there wasn't any potential. Like it's not like one thing you could go, that's why we had a bad year. I don't feel like.
I think it was a mix of things. I think
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
if
like-
you have, but like for the most part, if you have a starting 22 that plays every week, been playing together for years, and then 8 of those guys get injured, having those new kids in is probably the reason we were bad, but those injuries are the reason that those
So you'd blame
kids even had to play.
So you blame, if you were to go, the reason that we did bad in 2024 is because our 8 main players were injured.
Or more than 8.
Oh,
We're the biggest
yeah, I
injury
know you
list
had
in the
I know-
AFL.
Sorry, I heard.
Injury was one of the biggest reasons because
So is that one of, if you were to summarize, that would be your big reason
for this year, but
for this year. I'm talking about this.
But by the end of it, everyone wants to leave now. So there's bigger fish to fry. But
Yeah.
this year, I think our biggest enemy was injury.
year. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Nothing. I'm gonna wrap up.
Oh, I was just gonna say something you touched on was culture, and I feel like that's something that the culture had to be changed because the way that I looked at it was, and this was sounding sort of bad from a perspective of Richmond, but they didn't care as much anymore because they knew that the dynasty was somewhat over by now. Everyone started leaving. Dimmer started leaving. Brendan Gale started talking about going to Tasmania. So you bring in a new coach who's trying to basically restart this new dynasty and go again. So I think it's quite difficult to get a culture going when you have blokes who have won 3 flags, who are at a different point compared to blokes who are coming in at under the age of 22 sort of thing, and never having that success. And I think as much as it's good to have those veteran players to teach the young ones, mentally it's so different. Even you look at like a Noah Bolter. Did he play in two? Did he play in any of them?
I think he played 1.
In 1, but he was
was
still around though for that.
He won the 2019 VFL Premiership.
Yeah.
So he was in the Premiership side for the VFL.
So he was around it at the trainings at least. Whereas someone like, let's say, a Jack Ross, he's just come in. He doesn't really have the understanding of like what it's like. So then you get a brand new coach, and he hasn't had the success that Hardwick's had and the other coaches that are there, because each coach brings through their own assistant coach. So it's just a whole changeover with the club, and injuries hurt. but I think that's also probably the reason of players wanting to leave. I reckon they, Shea Bolton says that he wants to leave because of family reasons, but I reckon it's so hard for being a player that has won 2 premierships, but then
You can't just go
you know,
from winning to being the worst.
So I think that's just something that he
Yeah.
struggles with a bit. But then you look at Hopper and Taranto. They're a very odd one because if you tried to keep the dynasty going, but that probably almost ended up hurting you even more, being that you
No
just gave
first
away
round
picks, and
draft
now you don't have
picks.
any picks. But
Yeah.
in the end, they've been all right. But if you look at it, you probably lost the trade, in my opinion, because of where you're at now. At the time, you probably, I would say, won the trade because you got 2 elite players. But now looking at it from this point onwards, I would say you probably lost that trade.
Yeah, I think Hopper is a big reason we lost that as well. He hasn't lived up to his expectation. I think Tim Taranto's been good. Obviously, he's definitely a hack of the kick, but we need that person that can get the ball. We need at least someone that's there to, steady the ship, I guess, after everyone's left as well. But I think you're spot on about the culture change. I think Uze came in and he was like, "Look, boys, this is a new era. This isn't Dimmer anymore. This isn't Brendan Gale. This isn't Peggy O'Neill. Like, this is the new Richmond. We're not going to be...
There's going to be some tough times.
Yeah, we're not going to be a top 4 side. We're not going to be a deep running final side, but we're going to work towards it and we're going to get better every day." And these boys are like, "Fuck this." My whole
I've done
career-
that before.
Yeah, I earned my spot to get these premierships, and I'm not ready to just start losing constantly. And then with the injuries, it just piles up on top. Yeah, so there's a whole base of things. I do feel bad for Uze. Probably cops it a little for being lenient, but no one really knows if he is being lenient or not, especially with Dustin Martin. Who knows what's going on with that? The media definitely don't. It's only Uze and Dusty that would actually know about it. Dusty, because it came out afterwards that he was visiting his uncle that just got deported, or just...
And I think
If
as
you
well,
fess up about that too at the start, it makes a big difference. Like, if he's like, "Yeah, I'm visiting my uncle who's just got deported," you have a bit of sympathy. You're like, the bloke's going through a hard time. Dusty's and he's having some issues.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone's giving Uze shit, saying, "Oh, he's letting him go to New Zealand. He's letting him take a game off when he's got back issues. Where's the back issues?" But then Uze would have known in his head this whole time, "I know why Dusty's not playing. His uncle's just been deported." But he's copying it from the media about this, and then when they find out, they just forget about it like nothing's happened. But so we've got some issues. We've also got some positives as well.
Having that many picks in the draft will be good.
Yeah, so
Well, that'll be unreal. That'll show potential, I feel, where you guys haven't had for a while.
yeah,
good, but puts a lot of pressure on
On
you
our list
guys
management.
to do well.
yeah. We need
Because-
to pick well.
Like this is your draft.
Yeah,
This is like your Hawthorn sort of era back in the day where you get Lewis, Hodge,
yeah.
like those players. So
Yeah,
this
true,
is where
yeah.
this is where you start to build from.
Well, this year will be the only year we get trade value. So this will be the year we get all the good players we need to build, and then next year will just probably be pick 1.
So a few things I have here is all the players under the age of 24 and who played a game this year. So I'm gonna rattle the names off, and I want you to tell me if you think that they'll be in the best 22 next year. And your best 22 is whatever you think your best 22 is, plus 4 draft picks in there. So like you got to pick 18 players because 4 of them are just going to be
Okay.
players you drafted, like
Yeah.
Jagger and stuff. All right. So McAuliffe, he played 9 games this year.
Yeah, he's good.
He's good. All right. Campbell, 21 games this year.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he played 21. That's actually a fair bit from him.
he was good.
Rookie draft as well, I think he is.
He's a
wasn't
good
he?
player. Yeah, he clocked the highest speed this year, the highest sprint
Did he?
speed in the AFL.
Then Steely Green, he played 6 games.
Not in the best 22.
No. All right. Smith, Jackson,
Caleb Smith.
Caleb Smith.
No, he's not in our best.
Four-
He only
he
played
played
one game, didn't he?
4 games.
Oh, sub.
Then Brown, he played 18 games.
Yeah, he's a good player.
So you think best 22 or around not we'll say
Roundabouts,
not,
yeah, I would
around
say
in
yes.
that
I would say
picking
yes
area.
in the back line. Yeah,
A good preseason, he's in there.
yeah,
Sam Banks,
yeah. He's a good wingman.
15 games, so he got a few goes at it. Tyler Sonsi,
Nah, I reckon he'll get delisted this year.
you reckon?
Well, because he was playing out of position this entire year.
That is true,
And
but
he
he
was
was
just-
all right though.
He wasn't bad, but he wasn't what we needed
Yeah.
in that position. I don't think so.
Obviously Gibcus, we all know how good he is, so that's
Yep.
nothing too much to say. I do hope that he gets a good season. He hasn't really had one since his rookie year, basically.
Yeah.
Clark, he played 1 game.
Well, he had an ACL all year.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm not sure. We'll say
Okay.
no.
Now this is interesting. Morris Rioli.
Yeah, he'll be back in.
He will?
He had injury.
But
This
is
year.
he? I don't know about. He's a very good pressure player, but I've just never seen the offensive side of him.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he's just got to kick at least one a go.
Yeah,
game.
I definitely agree with that. He's starting to develop more of that offensive side.
But I feel like we didn't see it too bad this year, but his attitude as well doesn't seem amazing. Like we saw that time where he got subbed off and he walks to there and he crosses his arms and he won't talk on the phone.
Yeah.
So the attitude's a little bit of a problem. But that's kind of where, a Vloston or a sort of Tom Lynch puts his arm around and goes, no, mate, like this is how we go. This
Yeah,
is how
exactly.
your career builds.
Yeah.
Jacob Bauer.
Yeah, he's a
3
great
games.
player. Great player.
Why do you only play 3 games? Injury
Injury,
as well?
yeah.
Makes sense.
Injury and then just didn't get a look in for a bit. But he played
Fair.
those last 3 games.
Yeah, I liked him.
He was very good.
Trias.
No,
I don't even know how
I
to say
think
his
so.
name. 7 games is what he played. Then Hugo Ralph Smith, who
Yeah,
I do
good
like.
player. Yep. Good wingman. He had a really good year, I thought.
Then Thompson Dow, 17 games.
I think he gets delisted. He's been in the
Delisted.
system for a very long time.
Noah Cumberland.
See, this is a tough one because he's been thereabouts for a long time. And he's got a look in and then his attitude's awful. And even with a new coach, he like in a year like this, where our entire time, Cumberland was never getting a look in when he was kicking 4 or 5 goals a game in the VFL because we were so good. Even because we had Lynch in that spot, taking up his spot. But even in a year like this, how many games did he play? Like I'd say 10 maybe?
7.
7 games this year in a year like this. So I'd say no.
Coulthard. 2 games.
No, he needs to play more, but no, he just doesn't get a look in.
Blight, 3 games.
Yeah.
Then,
Are we counting how many I've picked?
no, I'm just asking you as a
Oh, yeah.
roundabout.
Yeah, I was just going to say how many.
Ross, 7 games.
Yep. In
Uh,
injury all year.
Manzel,
Yep.
played
definitely.
21 games.
Yep.
Samson Ryan.
No. He's the big tall bloke.
Yeah.
He'll get a look in when Nate gets injured, I guess.
Koshitsky.
Oh,
He'll be on the list, but
yeah, he'll play.
Miller, yes, I would
Yep.
say.
Yep.
And then Noah Bolter.
Yep. He'll play.
So the youth, there's a few people that Will's named, obviously with the youth that played a fair bit of games. A few who missed out on injury, so you get some preseason. Hopefully Uze plays them and they can play, above the 15 game mark and have a pretty good season.
Just need to develop. We need that X factor, that more pizzazz. Yeah, our players, apart from Mansell in that forward line, just lack pizzazz. So yeah. Alrighty.
That wraps up the Richmond exit meeting, I think.
Very nice. I reckon the next one we do, we might send out some questions and see what you guys have to say about these clubs, because we obviously don't have a fan for every club. We don't have Will.
Yeah,
We
that's
don't have
very
someone
true.
Who
Yeah,
goes for Adelaide, so we won't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
questions from people.
We'll
yeah,
get
we'll,
Jared.
get some,
See
we'll
the-
send some
yeah.
stuff through.
Alrighty.
Thank you guys. Hope
Thanks
you
very
enjoyed
much
it.
for listening. See you guys.
See ya.